The Third Testament, Chapter 17. The New Way of Worshipping God, the Evolution of Worship Services. How slowly mankind walks toward perfection in their worship of God. Every time I come to you with a new lesson, it seems to you to advance for your evolution. Understand that I gave you an entire era to come to understand it and to integrate it into your lives. The victims that you offered upon the altar of Jehovah were received by him, but that was not the most adequate form to elevate your spirit to the Father. It was then when I came to you as Jesus to teach you the divine commandment which says to you, love one another. I say to you today that the lessons I taught you during the second era through the deeds of Jesus have been altered at times and misinterpreted on others. For that purpose I have come, as I announced, to clarify my truth. My sacrifice in that period prevented the sacrifice of many victims, and I taught you a more perfect worship. My new manifestation of this period will allow mankind to understand that the symbolic forms should not be adopted without first analyzing their significance, since they are only a representation of my lessons. Prayer is the spiritual medium that I have inspired in man so that he may communicate with my divinity. That is why it manifests in you as a yearning, as a necessity of the spirit, as a refuge in times of trial. Who does not know true prayer does not understand the joys contained in it and does not know the source of health and goodness to be found in it. They feel the impulse to speak to me and present their petitions, but lacking spirituality, they feel that the offering of sending up only their thoughts is so meager that they instantly look for something material to offer me, thinking that with that they will flatter me more. It is in this fashion that humanity has fallen into idolatry, fanaticism, rites, and external worship, drowning their spirits and depriving themselves of the blessed liberty of praying directly to their Father. Only when the pain is very intense, when the pain is at the limits of their human strength, does the spirit, forgetting ceremony and knocking over idols, free himself and arises to cry from deep within, "My Father, my God." Do you see people occupied making war on one another in this materialistic time? Yet I tell you, even in the middle of these wars, many men have found the secret of prayer, that which is born of the heart and comes to me as an urgent call, a protest, as a plea. When they see the requested miracle happen, they know that no other way exists for speaking to God than with the language of their spirit. Prayer by rote, empty of devotion and faith. O my children of all faiths, do not destroy the most noble sentiments of the spirit or try to satisfy it with external practices and worships. Behold, if a mother does not have something material to offer her beloved and small child, she holds him against her heart, blesses him with all her love, smothers him with kisses, gazes at him tenderly, covers him with tears, but never does she try to deceive him with empty acts of love. How can you conceive that I, the Divine Master, approve of you satisfying yourselves with practices lacking all essence, truth, and love, with which you try to deceive your spirit, making it believe that it has been nourished, when in reality each time it is more ignorant of the truth? Prayer is a blessing which God has granted to man, so that it will serve him as a ladder to elevate himself, as a weapon to defend himself, as a book to educate himself, and as a healing balm with which to anoint himself and to heal all illness. True prayer has disappeared from the earth. Men no longer pray, and when they try to do it, instead of speaking to me with the Spirit, they do it with their lips, employing useless words, rituals, and material idols. How are men going to observe miracles if they use forms and observe practices which Jesus did not teach? It is necessary that true prayer return to men, and it is I who have come again to teach it to you. Teach your brothers how to pray. Make them comprehend that it is their spirits which must communicate with their Creator, that their prayers are almost always cries of the material form, an expression of their anguish, proof of their lack of faith, and of their mistrust or lack of obedience to me. Make your brothers understand that they do not need to mortify or lacerate their bodies to move my spirit and awaken my pity or charity. Those who seek suffering or bodily penitence do so because they do not have the slightest idea of which offerings are most pleasing to me, nor do they have any idea of the love and the mercy of your Father. Do you think it necessary for me to see the tears in your eyes or the pain in your hearts for me to have pity on you? To believe so would be to attribute to me hardness, insensitivity, indifference, and selfishness. Can you imagine these defects in the God you love? How little care you have taken to know me, and it is because you have not educated your minds to think in accord with the Spirit. Leave the earth for a few moments today and come to me in spirit. For many centuries, humanity has been mistaken in its manner of praying, and has therefore not strengthened or illuminated a part of their lives with my love. For they have prayed with the senses and not with the Spirit. Idolatry, to which man is so inclined, has been like a poison that has not allowed them to taste the spiritual delights of inner prayer. How much misery men have dragged behind them simply from not knowing how to pray. And yet, my disciples, it is natural. What spiritual strength can a human being have to resist the trials of life if they do nothing to come closer to the source of life that exists in my spirit? They seek me in the abyss and in shadows, even while they could elevate themselves to find me on the heights and in the light. Oh, if the men of this time understood the power of prayer, how many superhuman works they would perform. But they live in a time of materialism in which they try to put even the divine in material form in order to be able to see and touch it. True prayer. I bless those who pray, and the more spiritual the prayer, the greater the peace I make them feel. This you can understand easily, for he who needs to prostrate himself before images or objects to feel the divine presence cannot feel the spiritual sensation of the Father's presence in his heart. Blessed are they that have not seen yet believe. I said in that time and again today, for he who closes his eyes to that which is of this world open them to the spiritual. And he who has faith in my spiritual presence shall feel and rejoice in it. For how long will this humanity deprive its spirit of the joy of feeling me in their hearts through direct prayer, or what is the same, by means of spirit-to-spirit prayer? Until my light illuminates the lives of men, and they learn the truth and understand their errors. This is the time for prayer and meditation. But prayer, free of fanaticism and idolatry, and of meditation that is serene and deeply immersed in my divine word. Every hour and every place can be appropriate for prayer and meditation. Never in my teachings did I tell you that there were places or times destined for prayer. Your spirit being greater than the world it inhabits, why confine me to such limited images and sights when I am infinite? The greatest reason for the earthly troubles and spiritual poverty of men is their imperfect form of prayer. It is for this reason that I tell you that this knowledge must reach all humanity. You do not always pray with the same preparation, and therefore you do not always experience the same peace or the same inspiration. There are times in which you succeed in becoming inspired and elevating your thoughts, and there are others in which you are completely indifferent. How could you always expect to receive my messages in the same form? You should educate your minds and even your bodies to cooperate with your spirit in moments of prayer. The spirit is always willing to communicate with me, but it requires the goodwill of the material body in order to elevate itself in those moments and to free itself of everything which surrounds it in its earthly life. make an effort to achieve true prayer, because whoever knows how to pray carries in himself the key to peace, to health, to hope, to spiritual strength, and to eternal life. The invisible shield of my law protects him against all temptation and dangers. He will bear an invisible sword on his lips to defeat as many enemies as might block his path. A ray of light will light his way amidst the storms. A constant miracle will be at his reach whenever he needs it, whether for himself or for the good of his brothers. Pray. Practice that sublime gift of the Spirit, for that strength shall be the one to move the life of men of the future, those who will be able to communicate with me from spirit to spirit. Parents will become inspired through prayer in order to guide their children. The ill will gain health through prayer. Heads of states will resolve their great problems seeking light with prayer. And the man of science will receive revelations through the gift of prayer. Disciples, in the second era my apostles asked me how they should pray, and I taught them the perfect prayer which you call the Lord's Prayer. Now I tell you, be inspired by that prayer, by its meaning, its humility, and its faith, so that your spirit communicates with mine. For it will not be your material lips that pronounce those holy words, but your spirit that speaks to me in its own language. Do not let it be only your lips that call me Father, for many of you tend to do this by rote. I wish that when you say, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, those words come from the purest part of your being, meditating on each one of the phrases so that you are afterward inspired in a perfect communion with me. I taught you the powerful mastery word, that which truly brings the child closer to his father. Upon pronouncing, with respect and sincerity, with elevation and love, with faith and hope, the word Father, distances disappear, and spaces are shortened, for in that instant of spirit-to-spirit communication, nor is God far from you, nor are you far from him. Pray thus, and in your hearts you will receive great benefits of love. The 4 aspects of true prayer. Struggle. Struggle to reach spiritual perfection. I have shown you the road to reach that goal. I have given you prayer, a weapon more powerful than any material one, so that you can defend yourselves from the trials on the road. But you will have the best weapon when you obey my law. What does prayer consist of? Prayer is petition, intercession, adoration, and contemplation. Each of the parts are necessary, and one springs from the other. For truly I tell you that petitioning means that man pleads with me to concede to him what he wishes, to satisfy the yearnings that he believes to be the most important and healthiest of his life. Truly I tell you, my children, that the Father hears the petitions and gives to each one that which he most needs, as long it is for his own good. But be careful about asking for that which is in opposition to the salvation of your spirit. For those who ask only for material gifts, material pleasures, or earthly power are asking for chains for their spirit. Material pleasures bring only suffering, not only in this world, but even after the transition to the spiritual world. For the influence of those material desires can reach even to that place, and on being unable to free oneself from them, one is tormented by those yearnings, and wishes 1,001 times to return to the earth, to be reincarnated and continue living materially. Therefore, my children, ask only for that which you really need for the good of your spirit. The second form of prayer, intercession, springs from love of one's neighbor, from the love that I showed you as Master when I came to this world. Pray for your brothers, both near and far, for those in nations suffering the consequences of war and those suffering the tyranny of temporary governments in this world. Prepare yourselves, O my children. Pray for your brothers and sisters, but also during the intercession, you must know how to ask, for it is the Spirit that is important. If your brother or sister, your parents, or your children are ill, pray for them, but do not insist that they stay in this life if that is not what the spirit needs. Better to ask that their spirit be free, that it be purified of its sufferings, and that the pain promote spiritual elevation. That is why the Master taught you in the second era to say, Father, your will be done. For the Father knows better than any of his children what the Spirit needs. The third form of prayer, adoration of the Divine Spirit, means the adoration of all that is perfect. For by means of that prayer, you may unite with that perfection, with the love that embraces all the universe. In adoration, you may find a perfect state that each of you must achieve, and through adoration, arrive at the contemplation that, united to prayer, will bring you to unity with the Divine Spirit. To the source of eternal life, to the source that day after day gives you the strength to come to the kingdom of the Father. In this way, you should pray, beginning with petition, until arriving at contemplation. This is what gives you strength. When you are well prepared, you will struggle not only for yourselves, but also for your brothers, to move along on this road. For you cannot achieve salvation for yourselves alone, but rather must struggle to achieve the salvation of humanity. Intimate and spontaneous prayer without words. My people, you now hear the voice of the Holy Spirit, the spiritual manifestation of God through your understanding, not to reveal a new law nor a new doctrine, but a form that is more advanced, spiritual, and perfect to worship and communicate with God. How many are there who hear my word, who have become great analyzers, and who nonetheless are not the best of my disciples in practicing my doctrine, and who do not fulfill the divine precept which tells you, love one another? In contrast, see how easily he who puts into practice even an atom of my teachings is transformed. Do you want an example? One who during his entire life had been telling me he loved me through recited prayers for my others, in sentences that he did not even understand because they were made up of words he did not know, one day suddenly understood the true way to pray, and putting aside his old habits and concentrating in the depths of his being, raised his thoughts to God and for the first time felt his presence. He did not know what to say to his Lord, and from his chest came forth sobs, and from his eyes tears fell. In his mind there was only a single thought, which was, My Father, what can I say to you since I do not know how to speak to you? But those tears, those sobs, that inner joy, and even his turmoil, spoke to the Father in a language so beautiful that its like cannot ever be found in any of your human languages nor in any of your books. Those stuttered words of that man who began to pray to his Lord spiritually were like the first words of a child, charming and delightful to its parents, for they are hearing the first expressions of a being beginning to arise into life. The elevated spirit knows that the human word impoverishes and diminishes the expression of spiritual thought. For that reason, it silences the lips of the flesh in order to elevate and express itself with a language which only God understands, the secret which it has concealed within its innermost being. How much pleasure you give to my spirit when I see that you elevate your thoughts in search of your Father. I allow you to feel my presence, and I fill you with peace. Seek me, speak to me, and do not let it bother you that your thoughts are slow to express your petitions. I will know how to understand them. Speak to me with the confidence with which one speaks to a father. Tell me about your concerns as you would tell them to your best friend. Ask me what you do not know or comprehend, and I will speak to you as a teacher. But pray, so that blessed instant in which your spirit elevates itself to me, you might receive the light, the strength, the blessing, and the peace which your Father grants you. Tell me in silence your sorrows, confide to me your yearnings. Though I know all, I wish you to learn to form your own prayer until you come to practice the perfect communication of your spirit with the Father. Prayer can be long or brief according to the need. You may, if you so desire, spend long hours within that spiritual ecstasy of your physical body, if your physical body does not become tired, or if some other duty does not require your attention. And prayer may be as brief as a single second if you find yourselves subjected to some trial which has suddenly surprised you. What reaches me are not the words with which your mind attempts to form your prayers, but the love, the faith, or the need with which you present yourselves before me. That is why I tell you that there will be times when your prayer will be no more than a second, for there will be no time to formulate thoughts, phrases, and ideas as you are accustomed doing. Wherever you are, you can summon me, for the place is of no importance to me, since what I seek is the Spirit. In the second era, when a woman asked Jesus if the place where one ought to worship God was in Jerusalem, the Master answered her, "The hour comes when neither in Jerusalem nor any other place will be the proper place to worship God, for he shall be worshipped in spirit and truth, that is from spirit to spirit." When my disciples asked me to teach them to pray, I gave them as a norm the prayer you call the Lord's Prayer, giving them to understand that the true and perfect prayer is that similar to that of Jesus, one which is born spontaneously of the heart and ascends to the Father. It must contain obedience, humility, confession, gratitude, faith, hope, and adoration. Daily prayer. Beloved disciples, practice spiritual prayer daily, putting into it all your intention of coming to perfection. See that in addition to entering into intimate communion with your Master and experiencing an infinite peace in those moments, it also represents the best opportunity for you to receive my divine inspiration. In them, you will find the explanation for all that you have not understood or that you have misunderstood. You will find a way to avoid some danger, to resolve a problem, or to resolve some confusion. In that hour of blessed spiritual communication, all your senses will clear and you will feel more disposed and inclined to do good. Do not forsake the practice of prayer, even when it is as brief as only 5 minutes. But in it, know how to make a good examination with the light of your conscience in order to observe your deeds and know what you have to correct. If you lose the sense of time while elevating yourself in prayer, that will be an indication of spirituality, since you, even for a few moments, manage to go beyond time, that time which the slaves of materialism only use for their enjoyments or to increase their wealth. He who examines himself daily has to improve his manner of thinking, living, speaking, and feeling. I have taught you that through the prayer wisdom will be acquired, but that is no reason that I want for you to prolong your prayers. I have asked you for a prayer of 5 minutes, and by that I mean to say to you to pray briefly so that during those moments you will truly surrender yourselves to your Father, and the rest of your time you can dedicate it to your spiritual and material duties toward your brethren. I will teach you a manner of preparing yourselves so that your actions of each day are all inspired by noble sentiments, and so that the vicissitudes and difficulties do not stop you or force you back. When you open your eyes to a new day, pray. Come to me in your thoughts. Form your plan inspired in my light, and rise up to struggle, determined to be strong and not lacking either obedience or faith for an instant. Truly I tell you, before much time has passed, you will marvel at your strength and at the results of your works. The day of rest as a period of reflection. From the first era, I taught you to consecrate the 7th day to me. If during 6 days man dedicated dedicates himself to fulfilling his human duties, it was just that one day at least be dedicated to the service of the Lord. I did not ask that he consecrate the first day, but the last, so that he might rest from his labors and devote himself to meditation, giving to his spirit the opportunity to approach the Father to converse with him through prayer. The day of rest was instituted so that man, forgetting for at least for a moment the difficult earthly struggle, would allow his conscience to talk to him, to remind him of the law, to examine himself, and to repent of his faults and form within his heart the noble purpose of repentance. Saturday is the day that was previously dedicated to rest, prayer, and the study of the law. But the people, in complying with the tradition, forgot the sentiments for humanity and the spiritual duties that they had toward their fellows. Time passed, humanity evolved spiritually, and Christ came to teach you that even in the day of rest, you should practice charity and good works of all kinds. Jesus wished to say to you that one day was dedicated to meditation and physical rest, but you must understand that for the undertaking of the mission of the Spirit, there can be no day or time designated. In spite of the Master having spoken quite clearly, men distanced themselves, each one seeking the day that was most propitious to them, and so, while some continued retaining Saturday as the day of rest, others adopted Sunday to celebrate their worships. Today, I come to speak to you once again, and my teachings shall bring you new knowledge. You have lived many experiences and have evolved. Today, it is not important which day you dedicate to rest from earthly fatigues, but it is important that you know that every day you must walk on the path that I have laid out for you. Understand that there is no fixed time for you to send your prayers upwards, for it is proper for you to pray and practice my doctrine in favor of your brothers at all times. Ask, and it shall be given. All of you bear a wound in your hearts. Who better than I to penetrate to your interior? I know your bitterness, your sadness, and discouragement before such injustice and ingratitude as exists in your world. I know the fatigue of those who have lived and struggled on the earth, and whose existence is for them a heavy burden. I know the emptiness of those who remain alone in this life. I say to you all, ask and it shall be given. For this I have come, to give you what you need of me, whether that be company, tranquility, balm, missions, or light. Do not be afraid of misery. Misery is temporary, and in it you should pray, imitating the patience of Job. Abundance will return, and you will not find the words with which to thank me. When sickness overwhelms you, O blessed sick people, do not despair. Your spirit is not ailing. Elevate yourselves to me in prayer, and your faith and spirituality will return the health of your body. Pray in the manner that I have taught you spiritually. During your moments of an ordeal, pray with a brief but pure and sincere prayer. Then you will feel comforted. And when you succeed in being in harmony with your Lord, I will be able to tell you that my will is yours and your will is mine. Pray, but let your prayer be formed by your intentions and actions of the day. That will be your best prayer. But if you wish to direct a thought to me containing a petition, say then to me, Father, your will shall be done in me. You will be asking even more thereby than you could hope or understand. And in that simple phrase, that thought, you simplify the Lord's Prayer that you ask me for in another time. There you have the prayer that asks all and that speaks best for you. But do not say it with your lips, but rather feel it with your heart, for saying it is not feeling, and if you feel it, you do not need to say it. I know how to hear the voice of the Spirit and understand its language. What greater joy can there be for you than to know that? Do you think that I need you to tell me what to do? I have taught you to pray and to ask things for others. However, I also listen to you when you ask things for yourself. I do receive that prayer. Yet, I tell you that the time when I gave to you according to your petition, because you were small, has passed. Now, I wish you to act like disciples, presenting to me your spirit and your heart when you pray, but leaving it to me to read them and do my will. When you question or ask something of me, do exert yourselves to try to explain your problem clearly, nor bother to polish carefully constructed phrases. It is sufficient to me that your spirit frees himself from the world for an instant and leaves your heart and understanding cleansed, so that they may receive my inspiration. What will it serve you to offer me lovely words if you are incapable of feeling my presence within you? I know all, and it is not necessary for you to explain anything to me for me to understand it. If you know how to understand my doctrine, it offers you many satisfactions, many opportunities to ascend. Learn to pray before making any decision, for prayer is the perfect form for asking your Father, since in it you will be demanding light and strength to continue forward in the struggle. Upon praying, soon an illumination will come to your understanding that will permit you to clearly distinguish good from evil, the correct form, what you should not do, and that shall be a concrete proof that you knew to prepare yourselves to hear the voice of your conscience. Suffer hardships with patience, and if you do not manage to understand the significance of your trials, pray, and I shall reveal their meaning so that you may accept them. Every time that your lips or thoughts say to me, Lord, do not deny me your forgiveness, you are demonstrating your ignorance and confusion, as well as how little you know me. Do you tell me to have pity for your pain? Do you ask me to have mercy on my children? Do you beg me to forgive your sins? I, who am love, clemency, charity, forgiveness, and pity? It is fine that you try to move those on the earth who on the earth have hardened hearts, and that you try to move to pity with tears and please those who have not an atom of charity toward their fellows. But do not use these forms or thoughts with He who created you from love in order to love you eternally. Be content with the great charity that the Father has entrusted to you for all things related to human life on the face of the earth, and do not ask for that which might cause the ruin of your spirit or substance. I have more to give you than you do to ask of me, but it is I who know what you really need on the road. I said to you that if you know how to follow my law, you shall behold me in all my splendor. The blessing of intercession. Do not become accustomed to praying only with words. Pray with the Spirit. I also say to you, bless with the prayer. Convey thoughts of light to your brethren. Do not ask anything for yourselves. Remember that he who serves me will always have me watching over him. The seed that you sow with love, you will receive multiplied. Do not pray only when you find yourselves going through some painful ordeal. Also pray when you are at peace, for it will be then that your hearts and thoughts can become occupied with others. Do not pray only for those who have helped you, or those who have not caused you any harm, for even though that is virtuous, it is not as worthy as assisting those who have previously harmed you. What is it that I teach you now? To bless everyone and everything with your entire heart and spirit, because he who blesses in this way is similar to the Father in making their warmth come to all. Therefore I say to you, Learn to bless with your spirit, with your thoughts, and your heart, and your peace, strength, and warmth will reach whomever you send it to, no matter how far away they are. What would happen if all men blessed one another, even without having met? Perfect peace would reign on earth. War would be inconceivable. For that miracle to occur, it is necessary that you elevate your spirit by means of perseverance in virtue. Do you judge this to be impossible? Ask, and it shall be given. All that you wish in charity for your brothers, ask me for it. Pray, unite your plea to that of the needy, and I shall concede what you ask. The necessity of prayer. Be watchful and pray, I repeat frequently. But I do not want you to familiarize yourself with this pleasant advice, but study it and put it into practice. I tell you to pray, for he who does not pray will surrender to thoughts which are superfluous, material, and sometimes unsound, with which, unknowingly, he encourages and fosters destructive wars. But when you pray, your thought, like a radiant sword, destroys the veil of darkness and the bonds of temptation which today are imprisoning many beings, saturating the environment with spirituality and counteracting the forces of evil. Humanity has always been too busy with the great things of the earth to consider the importance that prayer and meditation have for that which is beyond this life, in order to discover its own essence. He who prays converses with the Father, and if he asks questions, receives instant replies. The ignorance of men about spirituality proceeds from their lack of prayer. You are approaching a time of true prayer, of worship without fanaticism, in which you will know how to pray before each undertaking, in which you will know how to watch over what has been entrusted to you, when you will know how to give fairly to your spirit that which pertains to him, and to the world that which corresponds to it. How can man go wrong if instead of doing his own will, he first asks the Father through prayer, who knows how to pray, lives in contact with God, knows the value of benefits that he receives from the Father, and also understands the meaning and purpose of the trials that he passes through? The beneficial effects of practicing prayer. Throughout the eras I have said to you, pray. Today I say that by means of the prayer you can obtain knowledge. If all men prayed, they would never deviate from the path of light outlined by me. Through the prayer, they would heal the sick, there would not be any more non-believers, and peace would again return to the spirits. How can man be happy when he has rejected my grace? By chance does he think that love, charity, and meekness are not attributes of the human heart? Know that the word that bears no love has neither life nor power. You ask me how you can begin to love, and what you must do so that this sentiment awakens in your heart. And I tell you, to start, know how to pray. Prayer will bring you to the Master, and I am that Master. In prayer you will find consolation, inspiration, and strength. It will give you the sweet satisfaction of being able to speak intimately with God without witnesses or mediators. God and your spirit meeting in that sweet moment of confidences, spiritual communication, and blessings. Whenever you need a confidant and a good friend, seek me out and deposit in me the sorrows of your heart, and I will show you the best pathway, the solution you seek. If your spirit is oppressed by sorrows, it is because you have sinned. I will receive you and will be benevolent in my judgment. I will strengthen your intention to reform and return to you your lost strength. Only the practicing of my teachings can keep you in grace and spiritual and physical health. The experience you gather will be light that you accumulate in your spirit. The spirit which knows how to be watchful will never depart from the route traced for him by his Lord, and he is able to employ his heritage and his gifts until he achieves his elevation. That being shall possess in his trials, shall progress in his trials, for he lives alert and never allows himself to be dominated by the material. He who prays and keeps vigil shall always emerge triumphant from the difficult times and will know how to walk with firm steps on the path of life. Oh, how different is the conduct of he who forgets to pray and keep watch. Voluntarily he renounces defending himself with the best arms I have placed in man, which are faith, love, and the light of wisdom. It is he who does not hear the inner voice that speaks to him through his intuition, his conscience, and his dreams. But the heart and mind do not understand that language and do not give credence to the message that comes from his own spirit. Prayer is the means revealed to your spirit to come to me with your questions, your uncertainties, and your yearning for light. Through that communication, you can dissipate your doubts or tear away the veil hiding some mystery. Prayer is the beginning of the spirit-to-spirit communication that in times to come will flourish and give its fruits to all humanity. Today, I have revealed all this to the people who hear me, so that they may be the forerunners of the era of spirituality. The power of prayer. When one of you prays, you don't realize what you reach spiritually with your thoughts. And it is necessary that you know that when you pray for your brothers, for those people destroying themselves in war, in those moments your spirit is persecuting a war as well, a mental war against evil. And your sword, which is peace, reason, justice, and a yearning for the good of your brothers, clashes with the weapons of hatred, vengeance, and pride. This is the era in which men realize the power of prayer. And for prayer to have true power and light, it is necessary that it be sent up to me with love. Thought and the spirit, united in prayer, create in mankind a force superior to any human strength. In prayer the weak are strengthened, the coward dressed in courage, the ignorant are illuminated, and the clumsy made able. The spirit, when it has achieved harmony with the mind, in order to reach true prayer, becomes an invisible soldier who leaves behind for a few moments that which touches his being, and passes to other places, frees itself from the influence of the material, and gives itself over to the struggle to do good, to banish danger and evil, to bear within a glimmer of light, a drop of balsam, and a breath of peace to the needy. For all I tell you, understand how much you can do with the mind and spirit. In the midst of the chaos in which man is immersed, you are in a world of conflicting thoughts and ideas, where passions for materialism are alive and the spirits navigate in darkness. Only he who has learned through prayer to elevate himself in thought and spirit to the regions of light, to the dwellings of peace, may penetrate without being defeated to the world of contention, where all human passions are reflected, leaving in exchange something of value for those who have need of the light of the Spirit. Learn to pray, for with prayer you may do much good, just as you may defend against threats. Prayer is both shield and sword. If you have enemies, you may defend yourself with prayer. But know that this weapon must never wound or injure anyone, for its only purpose is to shine in the darkness. The elements are unleashed against mankind, but you must not fear, for you know that I have given you the power to overcome evil and protect your brothers. You can order those elements of destruction to stop, and they shall obey. If you continue praying and watching, you can perform prodigies and surprise the world. Pray with purity. Make communion with my spirit. Do not seek out a particular place to do this. Pray beneath a tree, on the road, on a mountain top, in the corner of your bedroom, and I will descend to converse with you, to illuminate you and to give you strength. Truly I tell you that if you were already united in spirit, thought, and intention, your prayer would be enough to stop the nations that now prepare the hour to throw themselves at each other. You would destroy the hatreds and would be an obstacle to all evil projects of your brothers. You would be like an invisible sword to vanish the strong and a shield to defend the weak. Humanity, confronting these trials revealing the existence of a higher power, will pause for an instant to meditate, and that meditation will spare them from many of the heavy touches and trials they are to receive at the hand of nature and the elements. If you had great faith and greater knowledge of the power of prayer, how many works of charity could you do with your thoughts? But you have not granted to it the power that it has, and so many times you have not realized what you have turned down in a moment of true and heartfelt prayer. Do you not understand that a higher power is preventing the most inhuman of all your wars from breaking out? Do you not understand that taking part in that miracle are millions of the prayers of men, women, and children who with their spirits are combating the darkness and struggling against the influence of the war? Continue praying, continue watching, but put into these actions all the faith you are able. Pray, people, and over war, pain, and misery, lay the cloaks of the peace of your thoughts, making of them a shield underneath whose protection your brothers may shelter and be enlightened. The love of God and your neighbor as veneration of God. Be aware, my new disciples, that you should always honor and offer tribute to the Lord without awaiting specific dates, in the same manner that the Father always loves you. But if you want to know how to remember my deeds of love on a daily basis without falling into fanaticism, I will tell you how. During your lifetime, you should continually love one another as a tribute to the one who has created everything. Live in that manner, and I will grant you those things that you humbly request to forgive your faults. I offer you comfort and ease your pain, but I say to you, when your conscience makes you aware of your errors, pray, correct your errors, and your spiritual gifts attain spiritual strength in order not to commit the same faults again. Thus, you will not have to ask me repeatedly to forgive you. My word is teaching you to evolve and to attain enlightenment and spirituality. I thirst, I said to the mob that did not understand my words and enjoyed my agony. And now, what can I say to you when I see it is not a mob, but the whole world that wounds my spirit without seeing my pain? My thirst is infinite, incomprehensible, and only your love can quench it. So why do you offer me outward worship instead of love? Do you not know that instead of water you are offering me gall and vinegar? Verily I say to you that those who suffer and greatly offended me shall be the ones who will love me more intensely, and from their heart will constantly emerge their offering to my divinity. It shall not be material offerings or psalms or altars of the earth. They know that the most pleasing offering and worship for me are the deeds of love which they perform towards their brethren. Day after day, your spiritual prayer, whose language your material nature does not understand because it has no words pronounced by your lips, no ideas formed by your mind, comes to me. The prayer of the Spirit is so profound that it is beyond the human senses and powers. By that prayer, the Spirit comes to the regions of peace and light, where elevated spirits live, and saturating itself with that essence, returns to the transitory body to pass strength to it. People, the time when you must know how to pray has come to you. Today I do not come to tell you to prostrate yourselves on the ground. I do not come to tell you to pray with your lips, or that you clamor to me with florid words in beautiful prayers. Today I come to tell you, seek me with your thoughts, elevate your spirit, and I will always ascend to make you feel my presence. If you do not know how to talk to your God, your repentance, your thoughts, your pain, and your love will suffice. This is the language that I hear and understand, the language of truth and sincerity without words. That is the prayer that I have come to teach you in this third era. Whenever you have done good works, you have felt my peace, tranquility, and hope, and that is because the Father is very close to you. I reject all that which is vanity and human grandeur, for only that which is spiritual reaches my spirit, that which is noble and elevated, pure and eternal. Remember that I said to the woman of Samaria, God is spirit, and it is necessary that he be worshipped in spirit and in truth. Seek me in the infinite, in the pure, and there you will find me. Why do you offer me those things that I have made for you? Why do you give me flowers if you do not make them? On the other hand, if you present me deeds of love, charity, forgiveness, injustice, and of help for your brethren, then you will be offering me a true spiritual gift, and will ascend like a caress to the Father, like a kiss which children will send their Lord from the earth. Nor do I wish you to enclose your worship in material houses of worship, for you will thereby imprison your spirit and not allow it to open its wings to conquer eternity. The altar I leave you, and on which you shall celebrate your worship as I expect, is life beyond any limitations, beyond all religions, churches, and sects, for it exists in the spiritual, in the eternal, and divine. The communion of conscience between God and man. Today I come to you with a teaching that might seem impossible for the world to practice, but once it is understood, it is the easiest to fulfill. I come to teach you the worship of the love of God through your life, your deeds, and spiritual prayer, which is not pronounced by the lips at a predetermined place, nor is it in need of forms or images to be inspired. While men have wanted to see me as a distant and remote God, I have proposed to show them that I am closer to them than their eyelashes. They pray mechanically, and if they do not see all they ask for immediately, discouraged, they say, God has not heard us. If they knew how to pray, if they united their minds and hearts with their spirits, they would hear the divine presence of the Lord in their conscience and feel his presence very close to them. But how can they expect to feel my presence if they ask through materialized worship? How can they possibly sensitize their spirits if they worship even their Lord through images made with their own hands? I want you to understand that you have me very close to you, that you can communicate with me, feel me, as well as receive my inspirations easily. Practice the silence which favors the Spirit, so that it will find its God. That silence is like a fountain of knowledge, and all who penetrate into it will be filled with the clearness of my wisdom. The silence is like a closed place with indestructible walls, to which only the Spirit has access. Man constantly carries within his innermost the knowledge of the secret place in which he can communicate with his God. You can communicate with your Father wherever you are. For the place is of no consequence. It can be at the top of the mountain, or if you find yourself in the depth of a valley, in the commotion of a city, in the peace of your home, or in the midst of a struggle. If you seek me in the interior of your sanctuary, in the midst of the deep silence of your elevation, the doors of the universal and invisible temple will be opened instantly, so that you feel yourself truly in the house of the Father, which exists in the Spirit. When the pain of your ordeals overwhelm you and your afflictions of life annihilate your senses, if you experience an intense desire to obtain a little peace, retire to your chamber or seek the silence, the solitude of the countryside. There, elevate your spirit guided by its conscience and enter into meditation. The silence is the kingdom of the Spirit, a kingdom that is invisible to human eyes. At the moment of penetrating the spiritual ecstasy, the awakening of the superior senses is obtained. Intuition surges, the inspiration glows, the future is perceived, and the spiritual life touches what is distant and makes possible what before seemed impossible. If you wish to penetrate the silence of this sanctuary, of this ark, you yourselves should be the one to prepare the way, for only with true purity will you be able to penetrate it. It is necessary for my prophets to rise again to admonish men. Because while there are people who destroy themselves, blinded by ambition and violence, those who have received my light and calmly judge humanity are fearful of rising to give the good news. If humanity would know how to pray with the Spirit, they would hear my voice and they would receive my inspiration. But each time they pray, they place a veil over their eyes which hides to them the light of my presence. I have come to men during the moments when their bodies are at rest to awaken their spirit, to call on Him and converse with Him. It is Christ who, like a thief in the middle of the night, penetrates your heart to sow my seed of love within. Learn to pray and meditate at the same time, so that knowledge and understanding arise in each of you. Spiritualism is liberty. That is why those who now hear me and have understood the meaning of this liberating doctrine see open up before them a great valley, where they shall struggle and give testimony that the time came when God, the Almighty Creator, came to establish communications between Himself and man. The doctrine of Christ was spiritual, but men surrounded it with rites and forms to put it within reach of the spirits of scarce elevation. You have entered the era of the Spirit, that of the great revelations in which materialism, imposture, and imperfection will disappear from all worship, in which all men through the Spirit shall recognize God, who is all Spirit, and on that road find the means of perfect communication. When men have learned to communicate with my Spirit, then there will be nothing they have to ask or look up in books. Today, they still ask those who they think know more than they do, or they pursue texts and books anxious to find the truth. If you learn to meditate a few minutes each day, and if your meditation is on the spiritual life, you will discover an infinity of explanations and will receive revelations that you cannot get in any other way. Your spirit already has enough light to ask questions of me and to receive my replies. The spirit of humanity has already reached great elevation. Observe your brothers of humble condition who, in spite of the poverty of their knowledge, surprise you with their profound observation and the clear manner in which they explain that which for many others is inexplicable. Did you think they had frequented books or schools? No, but they have discovered by intuition or by necessity the gift of meditation that is part of spiritual prayer. In their loneliness, isolated from influences and prejudices, they have discovered how to enter into communion with the eternal and the spiritual, with truth, and some more and some less, all who have meditated on the true essence of life have received spiritual light for their understanding. You ask me, what does prayer consist of? And I say to you, allow your spirit to elevate freely toward the Father with true faith and confidence during those moments of prayer. Allow your heart and mind to receive inspirations from the Spirit and accept with true humility the will of the Father. The one who prays in that manner will be able to feel my presence joyfully at any moment during his life on earth, never again feeling that he is indignant. There, in the purest part of their being, in the Spirit, will be where I write my law in this era. It will be there that I make my voice heard and where I will build my temple, for that which does not exist in the Spirit might as well not exist. And so, though you raise enormous temples in my honor, though you offer feasts and ceremonies full of splendor, your offerings will not reach me, for they are not of the Spirit. All external worship bears in it vanity and ostentation. In contrast, the quiet offering which the world never sees, and that you offer me spirit to spirit, that reaches me because of its humility, its sincerity, its truth. In the word, because it proceeds from the Spirit. Read again my parables of the Pharisees and the publican from the second time. and then you will understand my teaching, which has been the same in all times. Do you know that some are loved without deserving it? That is how I love you. Give me your cross. Give me your sadness. Give me your dashed hopes. Give me the heavy burden you bear. I can bear all the pain. Feel yourselves free of your burden so that you may be happy. Enter into the sanctuary of my love and be silent before the altar of the universe, so that your spirit may converse with the Father in the most beautiful of languages, that of love. My peace be with you.